The Mesopotamians lived about 6,000 years ago, and they were the first astronomers to make long-term records. They were the first to build an observatory called ziggurats. They were also the first to use the stars to keep track of times to plant their crops. They also made the first 12 zodiac signs. The Egyptians lived around 4000 BC. They had developed astronomy into practical uses such as calendars and alignment of temples. They were believed to have influenced Greek astronomy. Stonehenge was believed to be built around 4000 to 3000 BC. It aligns with celestial happenings such as solstices, equinoxes, sunrise, moonrises, sunsets, and moonsets. Parts of the monuments are dedicated to the zodiac and lunar calendar. The stones are also in alignment for eclipses due to the Aubrey holes. Ancient China was believed to be around 2136 BC. They were one of the few civilizations to witness a supernova explosion, and they called it the guest star, but it is now known as the Crab Nebula. They have only 4 quadrants for constellations: the Dragon of the East, the Tiger of the West, the Vermilion Bird of the South, the Tortoise of the North. The recording scribes were moved from recording events to measuring and recording the dates of stars. Thales lived about 624 to 547 BC. A merchant outsider, he was the first to learn the ways of the Egyptians and their astronomy. He predicted that there would be a total solar eclipse that ended a great war. Pythagoras lived about 582 to 500 BC. He rejected the thought that Earth was flat. He believed in celestial harmony, which is that every creature has a sound and resonates within the universe. He created a very close solar system, what is ours today. The Babylonians lived about 500 BC. Repeatedly, they had predicted celestial happenings, discovered each of the planet's synodic periods, the time for a planet to return to its exact spot in the galaxy, and believed in astrology, which is the 12 zodiacs. They made mathematical descriptions of each of the planets. They made almanacs and could predict eclipses. Aristotle lived from about 384 to 322 BC. He said that the celestial bodies had to be spherical and supported the claim that Earth was round. He thought that the world was made of the 4 elements and thought that Earth was the heaviest and thus would be the center of the universe. Aristarchus lived from about 310 to 230 BC. He used geometry to find the distance and sizes of the sun and moon. People could find the diameter of the sun and moon by using the lunar eclipses and solar eclipses. He proposed that Earth spins. This was silly according to the other astronomers. Eratosthenes lived about 276 to 195 BC. He used geometry to find the size of the Earth, and he was the director of the library at Alexandria. He used a vertical pit in the middle of the desert to find the distance and the radius of the Earth, and then found the circumference.
Hipparchus of Nicaea, a Greek astronomer who laid the foundations of trigonometry. He's a geographer and mathematician. He's the founder of trigonometry, but is most famous for his incidental discovery of precision of the equinoxes. He made fundamental contributions to the advancements of math, science, and astronomy. The Mayans and Mesoamericans and what they did for astronomy. What they did for astronomy was the Mayans and modern calendars were starting to prove useful in alignment. Diego de Landa presented the Mayan calendar glyphs, which reported a new year began on 12/1, Hop in 1553, and the Maelstrom 19. Muslims were the first to establish observatories like the one built at the Mughal by Hulagu, the son of Genghis Khan, in Persia, and they invented instruments such as the quadrant and the astrolabe, which led to advances not only in astronomy but in oceanic navigation, contributing to the European age of exploration. Also, a man called Muhammad ibn Musa al-Kawachini is a great scientific mind of the medieval period, called the father of algebra. It is said that he is the author of one of the oldest astronomical tables that wrote the Kitab al-Jam called Tariq bi-Hisab al-Hind. He wrote this and used Indian numerals including 0 in place of depicting numbers by the letters of the alphabet in decimal notations or numerals by using for the first time. Deals with 4 basic operations. Copernicus was an astronomer who developed the heliocentric model, and it explains the rotation of the Earth through the normal motion of celestial objects. He first really developed the heliocentric model of the solar system before he published a book on trigonometry. He has been writing for more than 20 years called The Devolutional Orbium Celestium on the revolutions of the heavenly orbs, and it was published in 1543. Tycho Brahe was able to make observations more accurate than any astronomer who had come before him. He carried out regular observations of the sun, moon, and the planets for many years. His observations were a benchmark against which astronomical theories would be tested on. He was one of the greatest pre-telescopic observers. Ironically, opposed Copernicus' idea of the heliocentric model, he regularly obtained observations that were at least twice as accurate. The first scientist to understand the value of multiple observations of the same event. Galileo and the telescope. The heliocentric model, however, was aided by a series of observations by Galileo Galilei, shortly after the telescope was invented. Galileo's telescope observations of the satellites of Jupiter showed that there were at least some celestial objects that did not orbit the Earth. His observations at Venus showed a full range of phases that could not be accounted for by the model of Ptolemy. Galileo's book, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems, was a powerful argument for the heliocentric model of the solar system. The book resulted in the church persecutions of Galileo. Kepler's major contribution to astronomy was Kepler's laws of planetary motion. His first law states that the orbits of the planets are ellipses with the sun at one focus. Kepler's second law states that the planet moves so that the product of its transverse velocity and distance from the sun is constant. Thus, the planet moves fastest at perimeter and slower at aphelion. Kepler's third law describes the relationship between the sidereal period of the planet and the average distance from the sun. It applies that there is an underlying principle and that it governs the orbital motions of the planets. Sir Isaac Newton, best known for his work on gravity. His works on physics were so advanced that he was the first scientist to be knighted, and he first worked on the universal gravitational and developed the 3 laws of motion, which form the basic principles of modern physics. His discovery of calculus led the way to more powerful methods of solving mathematical problems, and his work in optics, including the study of white light and the discovery of the color spectrum. Edmund Halley. He was a great scientist and astronomer, and in 1716, Halley proposed 2 types of divine birds that would enable people to explore the deep sea. Halley pioneered our understanding of trade, winds, tides, reality, and naval navigation, mortality tables, and stellar proclamations.
Albert Einstein was born in Germany on March 14, 1879, and died April 18, 1955. He was a worldwide famous physicist that had groundbreaking theories when he was also working as a clerk. He won a Nobel Prize for his explanation of photoelectronic effects. He emigrated from Germany to the United States when the Nazis took over in power in World War II. He moved to Princeton, New Jersey, and stayed there for the remainder of his life. Niels Bohr was born in Denmark on October 7, 1885, and died November 18, 1962. He was a physicist who came up with the theory of an atomic structure and radiation emission. He won a Nobel Prize in Physics for his ideas. He was also working on the Manhattan Project in the United States. Wolfgang Pauli was born in Austria on April 25, 1900, and died December 15, 1958. He was a physicist that participated in the creation of the quantum mechanics, and his analysis of the philosophical foundations and methodology of physics played a central role in his interpretation of quantum mechanics. In 1925, he won a Nobel Prize for the discovery of the Pauli expulsion principle. Werner Heisenberg, born December 5, 1901 to February 1, 1976. He was a German physicist and philosopher that discovered a way to formulate quantum mechanics in terms of matrix. For that discovery, he won a Nobel Prize in Physics in 1932. Edwin Hubble was born November 20th, 1889, and died September 28th, 1953. He was an astronomer who played a vital role in the development of extragalactic astronomy. He discovered an asteroid of an outer main belt called 1373 Cincinnati on August 30th, 1935. George Lemaitre was born July 17, 1894, and died on June 20, 1966. He was a Belgian physicist that discovered the Big Bang Theory. Robert Oppenheimer was born April 22, 1904, and died February 18, 1967 in New York. He was a physicist and director of the Los Alamos Laboratory. He was known for being the father of the atom bomb. He also helped successfully split an atom. Fred Hoyle was born June 24, 1915, and died August 20, 2001, a British astronomer and a cosmologist that was known for the foremost prominent and the defender of the steady-state theory of the universe. Penzia and Wilson in 1965 were the first to discover cosmic background radiation by using a sensitive horn antenna to detect levels of radiation. They were awarded for their discovery. Armstrong and Aldrin in 1969 were the first two astronauts to take the first steps on the moon.